David Levy joining us on the line. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Bernie. How are you?
Doing KPEL's candidate series continuing now. KPEL's candidate series continuing now. There are 4 candidates in the race for State Representative District 48. We talked to one of those candidates now this morning. David Levy joining us on the line. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Bernie. How are you?
Doing just great this morning. So we wanted to find out a little bit about you, and then we'll ask the big question of why. So let's start a little bit about who is David and talk to us a little bit and inform the listeners about you.
Okay, I'm 55-year-old. Grew up in Bunkie, Louisiana. Went to LSU. Graduated petroleum engineering. Started in the oil field in 1990 for Halliburton in Broussard, District 48. In 1996, I started my own business, Petro Technologies, which is still running today, 23 years now. I'm the only Democrat that's running in this race for District 48. My intent is to give the voters a choice. I'm a candidate that has experience in the oil field, so I kind of have a unique perspective with respect to how the oil field works and what the future is for the oil field. So I hope that experience can help me better communicate to the constituency of District 48 what the concerns are and how we can move forward in the future.
So one of our favorite questions to ask candidates for office is the big why. Like, why? So, David, for you, why did you decide to jump into this race, and why now? Why this stage in your life?
Okay, the number one reason was because there was no Democratic option. But the second reason is that it is disturbing to me that the government is becoming part of a business. The government we're losing the concept of what is the purpose of government. The purpose of government is not to provide us jobs. The purpose of government is not to provide business incentives and to bribe them to come here and to provide jobs to the constituency. The purpose of the government is to gather these taxes that collect the taxes and then appropriate that money as best for the constituency to provide goods and services that individuals cannot provide on their own. And I'll give you an example. An example would be a police force, military, education, and, interstate roads. I mean, I can't buy that for myself. So I want a group of people that can allocate those resources with the money that I give them to provide those services in my interest. I don't want them to purchase airport terminals for Bristow in New Iberia. I don't want them to purchase $5 million plots of land at the Port of Iberia from Goldman Sachs. I don't want them to purchase RV parks. That's not the purpose of government. The purpose of government is to provide good education, good transportation, health care, safety. Those are the types of things that I believe is the purpose of government. It's not for them to beg the companies to come in and provide jobs. And I'll give you another example. The oil field is oversupplied right now because of the shale boom, which is all produced in West Texas. So the oil industry there's no activity in Louisiana, and all of that is being dumped on John Bel Edwards. They're accusing him. Moon Griffon does that all day long, every day, and it really has nothing to do with John Bel Edwards. It has to do with a different technology and all of the oil is being produced in the Permian Basin in West Texas. So it's just not here anymore. So our politicians, what they're going to do now is they're going to try and lower the severance tax offshore from $18 to $13 to give another $5 cushion for profits for the oil company. Well, the lifting costs are at $50 now, and the price of oil is at $55. So what we're going to end up doing is we, the constituency, are going to end up paying the oil companies to give us jobs. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So that's why I'm running.
Okay, so is economic development any part of a platform for a state representative?
It certainly absolutely is. Okay, so the way that you promote economic development is you promote a very strong infrastructure. What we need is we need our neighborhood schools to be rebuilt. They're closing neighborhood schools like close to me. They're closing Dotson. That should be completely rebuilt and brought back up instead of what LABI is doing is they're closing all the schools and busing everybody to these economically efficient systems where everyone's graded and the teachers aren't allowed to teach. So by doing that, in fact, I lost an employee to Arkansas. The reason that I lost that employee, one of the reasons that I lost that employee to Arkansas is because he has 4 kids. He did not want to pay private tuition. It was $5,000 a kid. So he didn't want to pay $20,000 a year in tuition to send them to a private school because the public schools are in such bad shape here because they're so terribly mismanaged. It's not really the money, but it's the terrible mismanagement because we now have these businessmen who are trying to run this government like it's a business. And you know, government should not be in the business of being in business. It's terrible at that, and it's ruining everything. The government should be in the business of providing these goods and services that we can't provide on our own. So I have one child, and I pay a tremendous amount of private school tuition. When she's in the 10th grade, when she goes to college, I'm going to actually get a break on tuition. I mean, it is outrageous. We should support our public school system so that we can have a good basis, so that people can create, they can live happily, and that will spur economic development. And I can tell you, I know someone who lives in a what most people would consider a very bad part of town, and his Airbnb is booked solid. He has people that come over to his Airbnb in New Iberia, and they help with his garden. So there are tons of opportunities that are outside of the oil field. What we need to do is we need to get rid of all these politicians that continue to blame the constituency because we're not giving enough to the oil field. When the oil field is it's changed. The technology has changed. It's moved to West Texas. There's a glut of oil. If you look at the U.S. production versus time, just go look at the graph. It's on my Facebook page. It has 12 million barrels a day is being produced out of West Texas, and it's $55 a barrel. There's nothing left. So I'm not quite sure who Clay Higgins and Moon Griffon and John Kennedy and Jeff Landry, I don't know who they're going to continue to blame. There's an oil glut, and it's at $55 a barrel. It costs $50 to come out of the ground. I don't know who they're going to continue to blame for our economic problems. We need to move on.
Have you interviewed oil company executives to ask them if the lawsuits do impact their decision-making ability?
Well, I mean, what oil executives would you like me to interview? I mean,
any of the companies that used to be up and down Highway 90? Any of the major companies? I mean, I'm just asking.
That's who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I sell products all over the world, for deep water completions. You know, in fact, I just had a guy come off a rig in the Gulf of Mexico on just about the only deep water completion that's going on.
So you don't think the lawsuits have any impact at all?
No, I think that the lawsuits. This is another big lie. The lawsuits are small land operators that have very marginal operations going on, who have spilled oil at their locations, and they're asked to clean it up. That's the only law. I've been in business for 23 years. I've never been sued, not once. I don't know what to tell you. This is all a big lie.
Okay.
It's just not true.
Okay.
So
we're actually getting at the 10-minute mark now, and so we have to wrap it up due to time because we give everybody the same amount of time. But the final 30 seconds are for you to talk to our listeners and tell them about yourself and why you want them to elect you.
Okay. Well, I want to leave everyone with this thought. Think about what is the purpose of government. Is the purpose of government to get you a job? I don't think that is the purpose of the government. And I encourage you to go look at my Facebook page and go look at the increase in the U.S. production and go look at what the price of oil is and go ask yourself whether or not Moon Graffon's explanation as to what is the problem with the oil field in Louisiana, ask yourself if it makes any sense whatsoever. Ask yourself if, listen to the interview between Moon Graffon and Clay Higgins, where Clay Higgins it's disturbing, where Clay Higgins is kowtowing to Moon Graffon. None of this makes any sense. So please go look at my website, think for yourself, and consider what is the purpose of government.
Okay,
and
David,
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to be on your show.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have
Thanks,
a good one.
David.
Okay, David Levy is one of the 4 candidates for State Representative District 48.